Okay, Chair, you are now live.
Thank you, Steph. I'm David Brown, the Vice Chairman. I'm filling in for our distinguished Chairman, Darren Green, who has obligations out of town. Our first order of business will be to call the roll to make sure we have a quorum. Parker Sloan.
Here.
Christy Quinn.
Here.
Buck Bragg.
Here.
Joe Ransmeyer. Sage Turner. Kim Schouler.
Here.
Jeremy Goldstein.
Here.
Samantha Cole. Debbie Giesenthaler.
Here.
Ben Williamson.
I'm here.
And myself, I think it gives us a quorum of 8. As a matter of information, I talked to Wendy Whitston yesterday. She gave me a call, and she is, as some of you might know, experiencing some health problems. She's been diagnosed with leukemia. She has been getting treatment in Asheville, and latter part of August or September, she'll be going down to Duke. But she asked me to bring this before the commission and let them know what's going on with her and why she hasn't been to as many meetings as she would like. I think it'd be a nice gesture if we could individually send an email or a voicemail, text, and just encourage her during these challenging times. So that's her situation. One of the first things we have to do is, because we're on a virtual meeting, I need to read the statement. Purpose of the Asheville Riverfront Redevelopment Commission recommends to the city and county an overall policy for the continued development and sustainability of the regional riverfront. The commission provides recommendations to the city and county for effective management of the public resources for the district and actively pursues and assists private sector investments in the district. The commission is made up of 14 members representing the city of Asheville, Council of Independent Business Owners, RiverLink, Asheville City Council, Buncombe County Commission, and the town of Woodland. Our committees consist of planning and design, networking, river economy, and as we know, we're in the process of making some changes there, as well as transportation and mobility. All commission members and staff are participating virtually. We appreciate your patience as we work through committee meetings a bit differently. Pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 166A-19.24F, this will be a remote meeting which the public can access by any of the following means. We are streaming live on our Virtual Engagement Hub, which is accessible through Virtual Engagement Hub link on the front page of the city website and also linked on the committee page. We also have an option for the public to listen live by phone by calling 855-925-2801. Meeting code number is 9385 for callers to call in and listen. You can send comments by email to Riverfront Commission, July 8 at publicinput.com. Anybody joining us, we welcome you. So one of our first orders of business is to review and the May meeting. Anybody have any comments, concerns, questions? If not, do I hear a motion that we accept the minutes as presented?
I make that motion.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Now we've got also on our agenda a draft worksheet for the development impact review. Steph, do you want to go over this?
Yes, thank you, Vice Chair Brown. So I had talked to David and Darren and Sasha a few weeks ago about a way that we could start making it more clear what kind of comments that this commission should be presenting to staff and in essence to other boards and commission members, the public and city council when the project is of an appropriate size. So what you have before you linked in the agenda is a document that explains how you all are charged with providing comments, which is under your broad duties to make recommendations on land development policies, monitoring implementation of planning efforts, actively pursuing and assisting private efforts, and also just blanketly making recommendations as a part of the regular project and permit review process so that it's clear to you that you have the purview to do this, even though it's not part of the development review ordinance. So that's the first thing that's on this worksheet. The second thing is a list of 11 theme areas that are suggested areas for you to think about when considering the comments that you would be making. So those theme areas are water quality, stormwater and flood impact, parking and multimodal transportation, economics and business climate, residential climate, urban design, sustainability and the environment, equity and racial justice, public safety, compatibility or implementation for the Wilma-Dykeman Plan, alignment with Living Asheville or other city or county plans, and then also public input. So there are some, and the third section is just there are some potential questions, and they're not the list of every question or idea that you can be thinking about, but just some potential questions that you could be asking yourself when you look at these. So for an example, if you were thinking about parking and multimodal transportation, you might want to ask, does the project have the potential to attract a bus route to the area? And it would if it was a large employer like New Belgium Brewery, or if it was a large residential project like Radloff's, okay? And whether or not the answer to that question is positive or negative is really up to your interpretation as individuals and as a commission. But this should just give you a way, a framework to think about to start. And then what we'll be asking you, what David, Darren, and I, and Sasha and I will be asking you is to help us refine this worksheet moving forward. We also have as staff here with us tonight, Dana Frankel, who is the liaison with the Downtown Commission. She'll be doing something similar with them. And so we'll be coordinating with each other. They've got some different concerns. For instance, they don't have flood impact concerns in the same way that you do. But they do have, they don't have parking requirements. So and they have a lot of transit. And we have no transit in the River Arts District except for up on Klingman Avenue and in adjacent residential neighborhoods like the South Side. So regardless of all that, we're counting on you all to start thinking about how to make this better. But does that start to at least provide a framework for you all to have discussions when we look at projects like today? Christy's not. Jeremy had a kind of like, he threw his head to the side and Christy's like, yeah, fine. So the one thing I can say, and we want to clarify from last time is that we do want you to provide remarks about design if you have them. So that's why urban design is on here. And only thing we put in here are the 4 main areas that we'd ask people to look at through the River District Design Review Guidelines, but you don't have to think about the design guidelines in the same way that, say, Jeremy and the folks on the Design Review Committee have to. So you can talk about design in a different way.
Any thoughts, commissioners?
I mean, it's a good framework. Sorry.
Go ahead, Jeremy.
I mean, it's a nice framework to have, a good reminder, and a good guide. But like you said, it's not all inclusive. These are some suggestions.
Steph, the one thing that I noticed, city just passed this new noise ordinance, but it might be that we've got something in here that's saying if we've got some type of assembly operation next to hotels or future residential, just to keep that in mind, the impact it might have.
Great point.
So when stuff bumps into code issues, do we care about that? I'm thinking specifically with parking, if there were requirements in the phase 1, phase 2, whatever it is,
You can look at it both in a way that you care about whether or not it's meeting code, or that you just want to make a comment about it and you don't really care what the code is at all. That's how broad you get to be on this. So for instance, if the parking requirement was 52 parking spaces and they had 52, but you were convinced that they needed more than that, I want to be clear that you're able to say whatever you want. This isn't restricted to code or the design review guidelines. There are other bodies that are going to make sure that the code piece is taken care of. And we might make comments to you all about them not having to do any more other than what the code requires. But that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments? So, Steph, are we going to just, what's
Yeah.
your
I'm going
plan for this?
Yeah, so we're going to talk about 284 Lyman Street. And it's the High Wire Distribution Center and Beer Garden. We're going to talk about that today and see if you guys have any comments. It is going to be reviewed by the Design Review Committee, I believe next Thursday. So we are hoping to collect some comments from you all that can be put into the staff report as soon as possible to get out to those folks. I'm going to share my screen and go through a couple things just to get you acclimated to the project.
Steph, while you're doing that, one quick question about this checklist. Are you giving this, for our own benefit to keep in the back of our minds, or are you hoping to get, kind of comments on each of these categories for every application that comes across the board?
I do not want comments from each of the categories. I want comments, and this is it's for your own benefit.
Okay.
But I think we will be making sure that you get to look at it as it's refined and continually reference it, especially since you have a good, with 14 members and 5 different appointing boards, you have a good amount of turnover on this board. So it's a good piece of continuity.
Thanks.
Okay. All right, can you all see my screen? You have to verbalize it because I can't see you, or I can if I look up there.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, you can. Okay, so here we are on Lyman Street. I'm just using Google Street View, and this is before all of the rad tip improvements were done. But we're looking south here. You can see Asheville waste paper on the east side of the road. So I'm turning around, and what I'm showing you is that from the public right away, the portion of this project that would be most visible is going to be far up here behind these tanks at the old Bonnets warehouse. So if any development ever occurred up here, you're not necessarily going to see the project. So we're going to move up, and I'm going to show you also
Steph, I've lost your vocal.
We can't hear you, Steph.
No vocal, Steph.
It looks like you got muted somehow, Steph.
I did get muted somehow. It's the magic of laptops. I'm back.
Hey, Steph,
So
is this
now-
a private drive or is that a road?
This is a private drive. So this is, for those of you who've been back here, it's the entrance to the old Jeanette Lumber and what people know as the Bonnets warehouse. And where this hand is, that's how far back we're talking about this project being. So does everybody feel comfortable understanding where this is located in the River Arts District? Looking for
Yes.
nods.
Yes.
Yes, thank
Yes.
you. Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, so what we shared with you was the submittal, the TRC application for this project, and I'm going to go past this and just talk about the project narrative just for a second here. That was shared. This is a project narrative that is required as part of the design review process. So in here, they are required to talk about how this project aligns with the River District Design Review guidelines, and also how it aligns with the Wilma-Dykeman Riverway Master Plan. So there are one of the things that they talk about is, activating space, providing, activating a warehouse that was not fully being used. And there is some discussion here about connectivity, which I am going to discuss with you in a second. So it says the project promotes economic development in the River District while also attracting community members and guests directly off the new Greenway and rad tip. Infrastructure improvements with secure bike parking and public transit proximity to encourage healthy, active lifestyle. Also promotes sustainability and enjoying outdoor activities. They do talk about, different pieces of public art that will be installed, including their signage. Here are some site context photos. They're very small, however, and they don't show the driveway, which I think is somewhat important. And here is the site plan itself. So what I'll show you is that the main, this is the warehouse in the back and at the top of the page. And if you can see where my cursor, you can barely see it, but my cursor is circling kind of in the middle right side of the page. That's really part of the primary entrance where people would actually get into a retail space, and this is the service window. It is ADA accessible. There is a ramp as well as steps. And then what you see, these kind of rectangular 9, I don't want to call them buildings, but they are structures. These 9 structures that are laid out over here on the south, the middle and the south portion of this area, those are all shipping containers. The ones in the middle are completely open air, so they're just the tops and the bottoms with some steel structural supports. And the ones that are along the sides have at least one side of metal still attached to them, but are open to the interior. So it's almost like a giant courtyard of outdoor seating. When you look at this, there's always, these site plans are pretty standard, but that does talk about the amount of parking needed. Tim brought this up, and the amount of parking that they are providing. For the amount of square footage, the way that the city would calculate this, their parking need is more than the 20, I think it's 25 spaces that they are providing. And there are no improvements that are required, like no sidewalk, pedestrian connection that is required from the rad tip improvements here on Lyman Street all the way back to where this new facility will be located. So they are using these 2 as warehouses. The rest is being used as retail brewery experience.
Can I ask a question?
Mm-hmm.
2 questions. One, from the site plan, it's hard to tell how many parking spaces were removed on the east section here where all these containers were placed.
I don't know that there were any parking spaces there. It's not a question I can ask. The only existing parking that I know is there is labeled. So for instance, these parking spaces that are in front of this building, the bonnets, they're not being counted as parking for them. So I'm not sure if there was parking over here.
Okay, and then the second question is, in this zoning, a certain number of spaces required for certain uses. Are they using it to get approval based on a warehouse use, but then packing in 200 people for events, which is a different requirement and a different use. Have you fleshed that out at all with them?
Yeah, so if you look over here on the left side of the table, you'll see that each different use has a parking calculation associated with its square footage, and then there's a total use. So the beer garden calculation is there's a need for 152 spaces. There's a total parking space need based on our code of 250 spaces.
Steph, the city of Asheville has minimum parking requirements for developments?
We have parking requirements associated with each zoning district, and the parking requirements are by use. And so we do have minimum parking requirements except for the central business district and for residential projects that are within 1 mile of the central business district.
And do you have maximum parking limitations?
You know, I can't answer that question. I'm not sure if that's if that is the case. We have discussed it heavily. I'll say that.
Okay, thanks.
You didn't mean 250, you meant 25, right?
No.
No, if you look at the table, it's 250.
Huh. How many spaces do they have?
25.
Right.
So there is how do I say this? There was a parking reduction overlay in the River Arts District. It is with the form-based code adoption. It actually is no longer applicable, but it was an incentive that we had at one time to support the adaptive reuse of many of these smaller buildings. So I think a lot of people still remember that. And there is
That is conflicting to what I've been told. Radview just got approved within the form-based code with the parking reduction.
Right.
yeah, well, it didn't just get approved, right? It got approved about a year ago.
It got approved after the form-based code was in place.
Yeah. So my understanding is that through an administrative review that we have found that technically the parking reduction, this is my understanding, the parking reduction no longer applies with the adoption of the form-based code.
But I've heard the exact opposite within the last couple of weeks because for other new projects. So that would be a big problem.
We can discuss that.
Yeah.
We can clarify that, but it has been an administrative, it's under administrative review is what I can tell you with legal.
Well, if the overlay was still there, what was the reduction? Remind me.
75%. So that's
No, it's 50, and then when you get to a certain requirement, it drops down to a 30%, and then drops down to 20%.
Yeah, 50 is what I remember.
If the requirement is under a certain number, then you get a 50% reduction. But if the requirement falls within a mid-range, you get a 30% reduction, and then if it falls within a larger range that's required, it's a smaller reduction of 20%.
So this would be a larger range, so that would take 50 off of it. It's still 200. So
yeah.
So there are some questions about parking, obviously, and other things just to note about the project again, that it's not on one of the main streets, it's behind on the private drive. There are some elevations in here that show what the additions to the warehouses would look like. Here's some of the signage using local artists and some materials. And then this is showing what some of that interior courtyard would look like with a container that had the sides removed. What's important to note too here is that they have this basically they're not showing it here, but on the sides of this, they're gonna be a fairly long expanse, both on the western elevation, the northern elevation and southern elevation, where you'll just see these sides of the containers. And there will also be an existing fence that you will see, but again, it will be quite far away from the public right of way as far as visibility in the area. So, any other questions?
Well, another observation I had, we did have, through RADBA, we have a special group that reviews these projects. So we took about an hour with them, and mainly the feedback from the neighborhood from RADBA was parking and possibly the trucks coming in and out. It is an industrial area. The paper company has trucks coming in and out, and now on the road that, that stops traffic. But it is still the nature of the neighborhood. But those are the two concerns. The other part, if you go on the Highwire website, they're saying 350 people in that in the container area. So the main concern is parking.
Absolutely.
Can you be more specific with the trucks? Is the concern with trucks just the interruption of traffic flow or conflict with pedestrians that might be coming back and forth, or what is the?
Well, pedestrians would be on that. They don't go that side of the sidewalk as much, but it could be. I mean, that would be a pedestrian problem on that sidewalk. It's not going to affect the bike lane or the Greenway, but when trucks come in and out of waste paper, and they've been doing it a long time, and they have an easier way to turn around, just generally backing up, trying to make the turn, coming in and out. It would be a good conversation with Highwire, just like that happened with New Belgium when they had a truck problem with the bridge. Smaller trucks, whatever. I mean, it's not, I just think it's a neighborhood thing at this point, but it could stop traffic, which, I want stop signs there, so I'm not totally opposed to that, but I think it's an observation more.
Steph, what kind of timeline are they on?
I won't know the answer to that until after design review. But I assume that, like most folks, they're looking to get through the process in the next couple of months and get it going and open up before we have a winter. Any other comments on any of these other areas of interest?
I'd say, the container thing, the whole look of it, obviously it fits the neighborhood. There's, Christie did a great job with containers, the art there. One comment that they had is that they were trying to work with Mountain Energy to park over there. That would be a solution that the neighborhood would probably be pretty happy with, if you could create enough parking over there. But I keep falling back to parking, I guess. But the whole business itself is fine. I mean, I can't complain about more drunks on the Greenway because I send plenty of them out there, I guess. So.
Any other comments, questions? So Steph, this is just brought before us for our review at this point.
That's right. This is just,
information.
it's for information and for comments. And the comments that I have revolve around parking, looking to create partnerships to park in adjacent areas and to create more parking, that there's a concern, and that the design and the aesthetics seem to fit into the area, that the trucks, that there's a concern about that and how it will impact other traffic in the area, and to consider smaller trucks or other mitigation efforts. And these will be passed on to staff, TRC review, the developers, the design review committee, and anyone else that needs to take a look at this project.
Any concern?
Steph, at this stage, do we know much about how they're, I guess, heating and cooling the building is one question. And then a second question would be around stormwater. I'm not seeing any stormwater measures on these plans, but it might be too early in the process.
I also didn't see anything, and that might be coming with part of additional TRC review. However, it may be that this project is small enough that it's not triggering a lot of extra stormwater requirements. What I can say is that it is in the floodplain, and so they do have. The building is raised and they are redoing the electric, and the electric is all being raised up above base flood elevation. So they are taking care of that.
Are the containers raised?
No.
Are they going to be ground level?
They'll be attached, they'll be secured to the ground. They'll be engineered so that they don't float away, so that they don't get pushed over by water, and so they don't float away.
So then they'd be seen as structures, right? When you review
They are
it.
structures. They are structures in the floodplain for sure.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other comments?
No, and thank you for bringing this. I'm glad we get to review, even though we still have the design review. So thank you for that.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, let's move on to the update on 17 Truckers Place.
It's a real short update just to say that the design review committee is seeing this project again. And you did hear an update last month. Not much has really changed. I think the design review committee is still pleased with the repositioning of the building based on comments from the original River District Design Review Committee. This is just going to be a more formalized final review. So just for you to note that if you want to pay attention to that project, which is on Swannanoa River Road next to the Aldi's, that anyone can watch the design review committee meeting next week online.
Okay. Any other comments on 17 Truckers Place? Let's move down to the work plan. Draft committee purposes and membership. I know we're a little bit in flux on our committees right now. But Steph and Darren and I and Sasha had part of this on our agenda for the executive committee. I know on the design review, we're still short one member. Anybody show any interest in taking that task on? We really need to have another representative from the River Commission. No volunteers? Okay.
It's really not a bad committee. It would be nice to have our commission represented. And I know there may be changes down the pike that will be made to it, but in the meantime, there's only 3 of us. And I think it's important in order for us to represent the interests of the riverfront for us to have 4 people on it.
I agree. I would volunteer, but my time commitment at this point is, I know that takes a lot of members' times to review and update themselves on everything that's happening between downtown and the riverfront. And I personally just can't make that commitment at this time.
I'm in the same situation. I mean, I'm putting a lot of time into BizWorks and this board and opening a new business, so it's not happening. And it would be nice to see people other than commissioners have to be on it, but I won't go too deep into that. See what happens. On the committee stuff, when will the committees be officially come into fruition? I'm trying to do some stuff in transportation, and it'd be nice to have that, be able to wear that hat.
Well, I think we'll be making a decision today with a motion, but Steph,
Okay.
you want to go ahead and review what we've got here? I hope everybody's had an opportunity to read over the committees and their mission statements, more or less.
Right. So just to review what we've sent out, we considered that potentially we had too many subcommittees, not enough members on each one. So we combined some of those concerns or theme areas into 2 other committees and did our best at making assignments. But the first thing we need to do is make sure that folks know which committees that they have at least temporarily been assigned to. We know who's on design review. I'll say mobility and transportation connections, which now includes flood response because that's a transportation issue, and flood communications is Darren Green, Tim Schaller, Christy Quinn, David Brown, and Samantha Cole. And then the public safety, including river recreation issues and water quality, which I think is going to also encompass a lot of discussion about the Swannanoa corridor as it relates to water quality and potential future projects. That is Buck Bragg, Joe Ransmeyer, Parker Sloan, Debbie Giesentanner, and Wendy Whitson. Does anyone know right off the bat that they feel like they're on the wrong committee? I think you can email David or I after the meeting if you want to think more about this. But as David mentioned, as long as you all are willing to get this going, we think it's a good idea too. And there's actually an item on your agenda to consider a motion to establish 2 informal working committees for the next year. I don't want to rush discussion.
Any questions, comments? What do you foresee as far as like once a month meetings with this prior to our group commissioners meeting?
That sounds about right. That sounds right.
We would need to elect a chairman of each committee.
Yeah, I think, yes, I think what we would like to do is get a motion to establish these committees for you all to feel comfortable with that. And then after this meeting, we can set out a doodle poll. I would do that for you to help coordinate just a time for you all to meet. I mean, I know Tim just mentioned he's raring to go. He was chair of the last transportation committee and probably already has an agenda. And then you guys can all elect a chair at the actual first meeting.
Right. Everybody satisfied with the committee they're on? Any changes? Do we have any motion that we accept these 2 informal working committees?
I'll make a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, so I will call the roll. All who is in agreement, please indicate. Parker Sloan.
Aye.
Parker Sloan.
Aye.
Christy Quinn.
Yes.
Buck Bragg.
Aye.
Tim Schaller.
Aye.
Jeremy Goldstein.
Aye.
Debbie Giesentanner.
Aye.
Ben Williamson.
Aye.
Debbie, did I hear you? Okay, we're having.
Aye. Yes.
Okay. So it appears to be unanimous with all that are in attendance. Did Joe Ransmeyer come in or Sage Turner? Samantha Cole? Okay, so this passes unanimously then. Good deal. So Steph, do you have anything else to update us on from the city staff?
Yeah. Yes. Thank you very much, David. A couple things. For those of you who haven't heard, the city has started construction of the French Broad River Greenway West. This is a section that's a section that sits between French Broad River Park and New Belgium Brewery. And some of you may have also heard that we've already experienced a slowdown with that, unfortunately. So We hit some unexpected rock right in the area where we need to build the Greenway, and we'll need to be redesigning that in accordance with the regulations of Duke Energy. And so that might take a little bit of a while, but know that we are on it. Any questions about the Greenway? The second thing is, the second thing that I wanted to fill you in on is that 8 River Arts Place, the city's historic office building that sits right across from Curve Studios, is still open for the request for letters of interest for a leasing process. And you can just web search 8 River Arts Place leasing Asheville and find a whole page associated with it. The submittals are due on the 20th. We anticipate getting 5 or 6 submittals at this time. There are a couple people from the public that are on our selection team, and we'll be looking at that in the end of July. And I hope to be able to announce to you at in August or September who that new tenant will be. An update on open space. Last month you heard from Vidila Satbika, and there is one more meeting that you should watch in case you are interested in seeing how a few things play out, especially the conversation about whether or not the RAD form-based code areas should be exempted from any new open space requirements. That meeting is at 11 a.m. next Wednesday. Several of you have probably seen a few emails that have gone back and forth between members who are what I would say I can depict it as not coming to consensus on this matter. Staff does recognize that this commission has not put in an official representation that was made clear at the last meeting, but that we have had quite a few pieces of input from community members in the RAD itself, and those tend to be negative towards the new regulations. And that's all I have for staff updates. I did speak with Peyton O'Connor. I don't know if they are here, but Peyton did have a meeting conflict earlier and was going to try to drop in if possible. Sounds like no.
Okay, any questions for Steph? I don't believe that Sage Turner is with us either. Parker, do you have any comments about what's going on in county government?
Yeah, I guess, first of all, happy to answer any questions people might have, but Darren, and I think you, David, emailed me about updating this group at our next meeting about what we're calling our Ferry Road property. So another riverfront property in the Bent Creek area. It's 137 acres. It used to be City of Asheville land, I believe, and was the site of that proposed Deschutes Brewery, if I'm getting my timeline of events correct. And we voted a couple months ago, I think it was our March meeting, to engage Equinox Environmental Consultants to do kind of a phase 1 analysis of the property, to look at the topo and kind of the road access situation and other environmental conditions of the property, to see what kind of to really see what kind of footprint of development we could potentially deal with, and kind of make a decision from there if the county wants to get in the land development game for this property. And if so, we'll go on to a phase 2 with that consultant, and they'll come back to us with what I would expect to be 2 to 4 ideas for a mixed use development there. I think we're talking about commercial, probably affordable housing, recreation amenities, that sort of thing. The French Broad River Greenway, proposed Greenway in our countywide Greenway plan, runs along the river there, and there's a couple of different potential segments going to the north towards the outlet mall. It's coincidentally directly across the river from the Pratt & Whitney proposed manufacturing facility. So it'll be a kind of a stone's throw from that property as well. So it's just something that's interesting to keep in mind and to look out for. And I'll be happy to update this group on that because it's just upstream from the RAD, and would love to hear your thoughts and opinions about how best to develop this riverfront property as well.
There's a lot going on in that Arboretum area right there currently.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, have we had any call-ins? Steph?
I do not think you have any public comment at this time.
Okay. I would like to make you all aware, I got a letter from the town of Woodfin regarding meetings they're going to have on July the 13th and the 14th at the town hall, which is regarding the Greenway project there in Woodfin, starting at 3 p.m. on the 13th and 5:30 on July the 14th at the town hall. So if any, you can also Zoom it. If anybody wants that information, I'll get it to them. But they've got a lot going on right there in their community. So our next meeting is scheduled for August the 12th. And believe it or not, it's supposed to be live and we'll all be in person, which is a wonderful thing for me when I don't have these computer capabilities. Anything else to be brought before the commission?
I should note, Vice Chair, that meeting will be in City Hall. So we will be on the first floor of City Hall at 4 p.m. that day.
Okay. Well, this has been rather painless, and I wish everybody a good weekend. So I have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Enjoy your weekend.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.